Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing this evening? It's early. It is 9:34 p.m. and I have been going all day long. And I am in a fantastic mood, except for one thing. But I think it's fixable. I lost one of the screws in my camera. I have no idea how it happened. I just noticed that my screen that I put up, the screen that I put up when I'm filming, you can't see it, but I look into it. Today when I was filming videos at home, like it was shifting out of place, and so I looked, and usually it starts doing that like when the screw is loose, and so I just tighten it up. But, are they turning it? He's turning. But I noticed that the screw was completely gone, and I'm like, what happened to this screw? Well, what's really interesting about this is I have this like little eyeglass screwdriver kit that I use to like tighten my screws with, and it has little screws in there, right? But I never use the screws, and so like a week or two ago, I threw all the screws away and just kept the screwdriver. And I'm like, okay, I should have kept it. Now I have to buy a new little eyeglass kit, which is fine, so that I have the screws, and then I'm gonna try to put another screw in there and see if that'll work. I'm like hoping that it will. I just like felt something on my pants. I was like, is that the screw? That would be so weird if that was the screw, but it's not. But other than that, I've had a fantastic day today. I filmed 6 videos today. I filmed 2 drama videos on my Peter Monn channel. I filmed a Peterisms video. I filmed a review video. I did the Dapper Dog Box review with Boo and Tucker. And then I filmed a booktube video. I did the New Year book tag, which was really fun to do. I hadn't done a book tag since Christmas. So, starting off February well. My goal was to post consistently on most of my channels, and it is February 3rd, and I have posted, okay, I think on the 1st, I posted a video on every one of my channels, and then yesterday I posted a video on every one of my channels except for my booktube channel, and then today I posted a video on every one of my channels. So, keeping up with that goal. And I'm almost done with my first book of February. I have 2 things to drink. I have water, and I have my coffee, and Tanya and I are supposed to go get a fountain pop later and go to Meijer and get some things. So, I was gonna get her cupcakes for the meeting tomorrow night, but she doesn't want cupcakes now because she is doing this, she's like eating really healthy, and so she's like, I don't really want any cupcakes, and I was like, okay. So, but I'm probably going to get a fountain pop later. I'm kind of craving a fountain pop. Like a Diet Pepsi or a Diet Coke. I said in my video earlier today, I was like, I don't drink Diet Pepsi very often, which is true. I usually drink Diet Coke. But as soon as I said that, I started craving Diet Pepsi, which is kind of funny. So anyway, yeah, it's been a good day. It was 68 most of today. It's 63 right now. And it was real blustery. It feels like spring outside. It's beautiful, and the dogs loved running around in the backyard today. I took them out several times, and they had a real good dinner, and they had fun doing the Dapper Dog Box review. And I wore a sweatshirt that I had done this, like, I wouldn't even call it a sponsorship. Somebody had just reached out to, maybe it was a sponsorship, I can't remember. I think maybe it was. Somebody reached out to me, and you can put your dog or cat's picture, or bird, I guess, or whatever, on a sweatshirt. And so they reached out to me. That was like 2 years ago. And so I had the sweatshirt made. This was before I even had merch with PP's picture on it, because I don't know if you know this, but very rarely do people know that I have a merch shop. So I do, and I haven't gone in there and updated it or anything forever, but there are sweatshirts and t-shirts that have PP on it, and it says, like, if you, like, the front of it has PP's picture, and then it says it's PP, and then I think on the back of it, it says the Flying Chihuahua. what's interesting is I went in and I looked at my merch shop because I hadn't looked at it in forever. And I looked at it, and I think I may have mentioned this on here sometime in January, and there were tons of, not tons, but there were, I would say, like 20 orders of people that had ordered sweatshirts and t-shirts with PP on it. It meant so much to me. I just thought that was such a cool thing. So I'll have to get Boo and Tucker merch going in there too. And put them in the videos as well. I want to start doing that. PP was so easy because he would just like sit there. Like Boo and Tucker like run circles around. Like they don't like to sit for very long and just in the chair and be like calm and still. Tucker will, but like Boo Radley will sit behind me and he just like digs in the chair like he's trying to make a little like, you know, hole in the ground back there where he can sleep. So yeah, I did all that. Last night, I stayed up quite late last night and I was listening to the book, Call Me God, about the DC shooter. Okay, it is so interesting, but I have to tell you what is really interesting is, right on the heels of me vlogging last night, I mean, I started laughing to myself because as soon as I got done vlogging, I started listening to it. And I listened to so much of it. I only have an hour and 15 minutes left of it. It's really interesting. It's really good. I hate saying that it's good over such a tragic topic like that, but it is really good. I mean, it is fantastically done. And the tributes that they pay to the victims, they have a lot of the victims who survived speak in it. It's very much like a documentary. They have family members to talk about the victims. So there's homage paid to the victims, which I really like. You hear about the backstory of almost all of the victims. Not all of them, but almost all of them. And really kind of talk about, you know, that, like where they went to school, how many kids they had, if they were married. Like it goes in and it talks about the victims, which I think is important. But then it talks about, on the heels of, okay, so last night I was talking about, one of the things that was interesting to me about it was talking about how the FBI and the police, they work so well together with this case, and I was like real impressed with that, you know? Well, as soon as I started listening to it last night, like it almost the opposite is the case with the book. It's like it becomes this huge issue between the police and the FBI, and the police don't want to give the case over to the FBI. I mean, it even got to the point where like the politicians like McCain and people like that were getting on the national news and saying like the FBI needs to take this case over, like this is that big of a deal, and the police didn't want to let go of it, which is always interesting to me when you think about what's in the best interest of the case. And I mean, I'm not a police officer and I'm not an FBI agent, so I definitely, you know, don't know what that's about, but it's like, why, like, would you not be willing to work together and share all this information? And this one situation, I don't want to ruin it for people that have not read the book, but the DC shooter, well, you find out more about who it is. I don't want to ruin it because I didn't know anything about who the DC shooter was before I read this book. So what's interesting is, so I'm not going to go into who the DC shooter is because I do know at this point. Because they kind of tell you who it is and how they figured out who it was, and then they go in and then they, but it's more than that. I just don't want to ruin it for anybody that hasn't watched it or doesn't know anything about the case. So don't ruin it in the comment section if you, like, don't say, oh, I didn't know either that it was ... because it'll ruin it for people. Because it would have ruined it for me listening to it. I didn't know that. I didn't know that information. But there's something specific about this sniper situation versus how most snipers are. Most snipers are lonely people that never interact with anybody else, and that's what they say in the book. But anyway, there was a situation where outside of one of the attacks, one of the killings, because I mean, it's like 15 in like 3 days. I mean, it is unbelievable. And outside of one of the areas is this Ponderosa, and the police won't let the guy, the FBI agent, I think it's Tim Clementi, because it's two brothers, Tim and Jim Clementi. And Jim Clementi was on the Golden State Killer case. but they won't let him read the note that he finds. He finds this note, like, up in the tree, and so they won't let him see what it says. Well, on the back of it, they don't read it. It says to answer the phone the next morning at that Ponderosa at 6 a.m. And he's standing outside and the phone is ringing, and he's like, don't you think somebody should go inside and answer that phone, this payphone? And the police are like, no, and they haven't read the note, right? Well, then when the note gets analyzed and they read it, they like miss the call that they could have had with the DC shooter. And then the DC shooter comes back and basically blames the law authorities, saying that because they're not willing to work together and take the calls and all this kind of stuff, that more people will be killed. So it's kind of like this botched job that happens because the FBI and the police aren't working together. And it's interesting that I was just talking about that last night in my vlog, and then here it is. And, you know, I'm like listening to this case, I'm like, wow, this is crazy that this is a big part of this book. When up to that point, it seemed like they were. And I was sitting there and I was thinking back on the cases that I've read in the last year, and I guess I was wrong. I don't know. The more I thought about it, I was like, I think this is typical that the police and the FBI argue over who's going to take the case. I guess I was really thinking about American Predator, about Israel Keyes, that that like in that situation, like in that situation, well, it was an argument in that situation too, but it was more of like the district attorney is what I remember being a problem. Like the FBI kind of swooped in right away, but it was because it was across state lines and it was cross jurisdiction too. So they had like jurisdiction right away with that case. But then this district attorney like messed the whole thing up. It's always interesting to me when you read these cases about like how everybody seems to work together. Maybe I'm just thinking about the John Wayne Gacy case, because that case, the police and the FBI really did, or the district attorney's office or whoever it was, I can't remember, they really did work together on the John Wayne Gacy case. Like that was a big part of the book, the guy that wrote it, talking about how they all worked together and the relationships that they built and things like that. But like the Zodiac killer, like that was another situation where they didn't work together. And there's been other situations like that where what was the other one where they didn't work together? It was like a big deal. So yeah, I'm almost done with that book. I'll finish that book tonight. So my first book of February will be done on the 3rd. I can't believe it. And then I don't know what book I'm going to listen to next. I think I'm going to listen to the 3rd book in the Truly Devious series, because then I'll have finished that series. It's going to be the first series I finished in a long time. I don't know what the new book is called, but I just bought it. And I'm excited about that. And then I don't know what I'm going to read after that. I have so many books I want to listen to and read. I want to read, well, I feel like I should just start the true crime book, which is Mindhunter, and get that done. I think it's like 14 or 15 hours long, which for me is like I listen to it at 2 times speed, so it's like 7 hours. So I feel like I'll listen to the Truly Devious book, and then I'll probably listen to Mindhunter. Yeah. I love, like, you know, obviously I love traveling, but when I travel in the middle of a month, like we're going to Dallas, I don't, and you guys, I have received so many emails and so many messages from people saying, like, if you're free when you're in Dallas, I would love to meet up with you. I'd love to have coffee. I would love to meet up with people too. I had thought about maybe even doing a meetup while we were there, but we're literally there, you guys, for just like a few days. Like, we're not even there for like 3 full days. And 1 whole day is dedicated to a wedding that we're going to. And then we're also like hanging out with a friend of ours that we haven't seen in probably 5 or 6 years, with the exception of once or twice when he's come home. So like the rest of the time is going to be spent with him. I don't have the time to like meet up with people in Dallas. I really appreciate you asking. It means a lot. But I just don't have the time while I'm out there. If we go out there at another time, longer period of time, sometime, oh, Tanya Jean is calling. Hold on a second, let me pull in here. If we go for a longer period of time at some point, then maybe I will do a meetup, but I can't do it on this trip. Hold on just a second. Oh, she already hung up. What's shaking? It's okay. How'd you know I was vlogging? How'd you know I was vlogging? Did I tell you that? Oh, what's up? Are you done? You ready?
I can be.
Well, I'm vlogging now, so you want to wait until I'm done vlogging and then I'll text you? I don't know, hour. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine.
Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
You sound like you just woke up. Oh, all right. Well, I'll come pick you up in an hour. I'll be there like right at an hour, like 10 to 11. Is that good? Okay. All right. Okay, bye. She said she's not feeling very well. Poor thing. Just when I start feeling better, she feels sick. I really like this metal one. I'll tell you what the... Oh shoot! Why did it start doing that? It went back and it started playing my audiobook. Don't do that, stupid book. Okay, the Truly Devious book is called... Ooh, I also want to read The Wife Between Us. The Hand on the Wall by Maureen Johnson. That's the next one I want to read. Mindhunter is 15 hours and 24 minutes. Oh my god, that's almost 8 hours. I've heard it's good though. Okay, I just have to keep this over here so I can see that it's not playing, because one time I was vlogging and my audiobook was playing and it like kept on going and going and going and going, and I didn't realize it, and it was like when I got done vlogging, like I have it charging right now, so it plays through my USB thing. When I got done charging it, or when I got done vlogging, I went to my phone and my audiobook had been playing for an hour, like, and I didn't even know it. And so I had to go back and find my space. Let's see how Peter's hair looks. Oh, look at that hairdo, is for you. So anyway, and then I've been listening to, or I've been reading on the Kindle Funland by Richard Lehman. I don't know what I think of it. Well, I have all these books in there that I downloaded, and they're like not books that I really want to read anymore. I mean, they're books that like at one point, like I was real interested in, so I bought, but like I'm not super interested in anymore. So I'm just kind of like trying to read them because I have them in there. Does anybody know how to get rid of books in your library? Like I tried to delete a bunch of books in there that I didn't want, and it won't let me do it. I don't know why. It even says remove from device, and so I hit it, and then it still wouldn't let me remove it from the device. I'm gonna pull through the post office to turn around and go the other way. Dream, 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 dream. I couldn't go up that high today. I'll tell you the books I have on my Kindle. I was talking to my friend Valerie, and I was like, do you still listen to my vlogs? And she was like, yeah, every day. And I was like, but do you like them, or do you just feel like you have to listen to them because you're my friend? And she was like, no, I listen to them because I like them. She's like, now I get a little bored when you talk about the book stuff. She's like, because I don't know the books that you're always talking about. So I probably shouldn't talk about books on here as much anymore, but okay, I will tell you the Kindle books that I have in my library. See, it won't let me take out like Columbine. Yeah, now it recommend this book, mark as unread, download, book details, add to collection, select multiple items. It won't let me like remove the ones in this Jackie Collins book. It won't let me remove from here. Samples, it won't let me remove from here. Delete permanently. Remove. Let's see if it'll do it. Oh yeah, it did do that. But then like, those are samples of like books that I have in here. It won't let me do that. I have The Husband's Secret by Liam Moriarty, and I also have the book. And then I have Jim Flint, the boy from Peoria. So Jim Flint owns the Miss Continental pageant in Chicago that I've always wanted to go to and I've never gone to. And so I got his biography or autobiography. Then I have a bunch of scary books in here. I have The Killing Kind by Brian Smith. I have Richard Lehman Cuts, Richard Lehman To Wake the Dead. I have Depraved by Brian Smith. So I like to read scary books before I go to bed. And then I have The Traveling Vampire Show by Richard Lehman. The Island by Richard Lehman. No Sanctuary by Richard Lehman. I already read that. Will it let me remove it? Nope, won't let me remove it. Just Add Water by Hunter Shea. That's like I really like scary books about the ocean too, because you know my fear of sharks. And then I have At Bay, I think, which is another scary book, ocean book. And then I have these books by J. Bell, Something Like Winter, which is like the sequel to Something Like Summer, I think, or is it Something Like Fall, then Something Like Summer. And then I have this book called, somebody recommended it to me, it's like this LGBT book called Gulliver Takes Manhattan, about this guy that moves to New York. And I just the other day looked it up on Goodreads and it looked so boring. I was like, why do I have it? So I was going to try to delete that one from here too. And then I got Shirley Conran's Crimson, which I've never read, and it's her only book that I've never read. So Shirley Conran, C-O-N-R-A-N, I think she's passed, but she's passed away, but she wrote, did you ever see the Lifetime movies, or I don't know if they were Lifetime movies, but the made-for-TV movies, Lace? Did you ever see those with Phoebe Cates? Oh, so good. So I, in high school, read Lace and Lace 2, and then I also read, what was the other book called? Shoot. I just had it in my head when I was looking at the cover, because all the covers are the same. They like say her name and they're like in cursive writing. What is the book? But it was about so it was about these men, and they were all like CEOs of companies or doctors or something. I can't remember, but they were super wealthy. And they go to this island, right? Well, like the plane crashed or something before they got to this, I don't know, but these women who were like the wives, they were like trapped on this island by themselves. So it was very much like Lord of the Flies, but it was these women. It was so good. I loved that book so much when I read it. It was so funny. I was thinking about this the other day. My friends and I used to like pass around books that it's gonna stop, hold on. Okay. We used to pass around books that we would read in high school, and I think I bought this book on like eBay or something not too long ago because it's out of print now. But the book was called Amethyst. Oh, I wish I could. Is there a place for me to pull it over here? No. I want to look it up and read it to you guys. Okay, so my friends and I, every single one of us read this book called Amethyst, and I was the first one that read it. And I literally can remember to this day being at the grocery store and being like in the paperback aisle with my friend, and I bought the book. And it was like this really thick book too, and it had like a pink cover on it, pink or purple cover on it. And I was so excited to read this book. And I remember I read it, and it was like this really rich, about this really rich family or something like that. We all passed this book around, and we were obsessed with this book in high school called Amethyst. But we all did that. We all passed books around. My friend read this one book, and it was called Groupie. Oh my God. It was so dirty. Oh my God, it was so dirty. And it was about this girl that was, a groupie, like, to these bands, but it wasn't the Pamela DeBar book. I mean, it was like a D-list book. It was like a book nobody knew about, right? The Pamela DeBar book is called I'm With the Band. I think I read that in high school, or I started reading it, or something like that in high school. But my friends and I, we all read just like trash novels. We would go to like the Thrifty Threads or the Thrifty World or whatever those places were called, the thrift stores in high school, and we would always get like the cheap. But now I read good books too. Like I read like Fitzgerald and Hemingway and all that kind of stuff too. But most of my friends, they read like junk books they would find at the thrift store, and then we would all pass it around. Do you remember that between us, how you would do that? We also read like the Wifey by, oh shoot, what's her name? She's Beverly, is it by Beverly Cleary? She's the one that wrote Are You There, God, It's Me, Margaret. And she like looks outside and there's this guy on the motorcycle and she's like so excited about it. There's like a couple, she wrote like 2 like adultish kind of books. Oh my Lord. Do you remember that book, Wifey, back in the day? There was Wifey and there was another one that she wrote. I can't remember what it was called. It wasn't by Beverly Cleary. Who is it by? Judy Blume. Judy Blume wrote those books. Oh my God. And I think she writes like a lot of adult books now, but back in the day she didn't. So sad this Sears is gone now for good. I kind of liked Sears. They had LL Bean stuff in it that I always thought was super cute. Okay, we're gonna look up this book, Amethyst, really quick. And I know when I read it to you guys, you're gonna wanna read it. And then when I was in high school, there was this girl, well, this was when I was in 9th grade. There was this girl, I always wanted to be her friend, but she really couldn't be bothered with me. But anyway, and it's interesting because she ended up being in movies. She was in Edward Scissorhands. I think she went to boarding school with Winona Ryder. So she ended up being in Edward Scissorhands and Reality Bites. But I was never her friend. But she, I remember, was reading the book about Frances Farmer, who then I became obsessed with. She was reading like the biography of Frances Farmer. And like a year ago, like a couple people sent me Frances Farmer books, which I thought was really cool. So thank you. Okay, Amethyst book. Let's look it up. I don't even know how to spell Amethyst. Amethyst? Oh, I spelled it right. Peter Spelling Bee, champion. Amethyst book. Amethyst bookends for sale. Amethyst book by Lauren Royal. Emerald. This can't be it. This isn't. Does it look like it? It doesn't look like it. It was by Mary Rose Hayes. I knew it as soon as I saw the cover. I was like, well, you guys can't see the cover, and I'm not going to try to do it. But anyway, here it is. Amethyst by Mary Rose Hayes on Goodreads. I think I own this at home. I think it came out in 1990, which was the year I graduated. Oh my God. 435 pages. More about the author. Let's hear about the author. I lived in a remote, it says I lived in a remote English country rectory during and after World War II with limited radio, obviously no TV, and frequent power outages. Entertainment was storytelling, play acting. Oh, I guess she said she did. I began to write stories when I was 6 years old and never stopped. My new novel, What She Had to Do, draws to some extent on the background. It concerns a young woman that okay, she goes on and on and on and tells about all this kind of stuff. Has she been writing any books since? When's the last book she wrote? She hasn't written books in years. 2013. Has 9 ratings on it. Well, here's Amethyst. It has 48 ratings. Do I have on here red? Yes, I have it checked as red. That is so hilarious. It doesn't even say what it's about. Listen to this. This person, Lindsay Heller, she said, I started this hilarious thing where I go to a thrift store and find the cheesiest looking 1980s trash. Oh my God. Book about a group of women. There are a ton of them. The Debutantes was the first I picked up, and this one has quite a lot in common with it. I don't actually think this is a case of ripping off. However, I think this is a case of what people in the 80s might have found salacious. Jess, Gwyneth, and Catriona are best friends at a quiet English boarding school. That's the lace reference again. English boarding school when Victoria Raven joins them their senior year. Beautiful and mysterious, Victoria sports a gigantic amethyst ring and purports to be able to see the future. There she tells her futures. I thought somebody was outside my car. That scared me. Traditionalist Jess, there she tells their futures. Traditionalist Jess will live in another country. Dowdy Gwyneth will make $1 million due to her bones. And Catriona will marry the boy she loves, but at a high cost. All futures wildly different from the ones they envisioned for themselves, but it's the last prediction that sends them to rural Scotland 30 years later, when Victoria's mysterious and handsome brother, Tancredi, calls them, the prediction that in 30 years' time, they will all be together again, but they will be one less. This book was plainly fun. It was one of those books where all the girls somehow managed to become effortlessly rich and famous. But towards the end, something really started to grate on me. That was the men in this story. What a sorry group of controlling messes. There wasn't a member of the lot that was remotely appealing, and yet I repeatedly got the impression that we were supposed to be swept on our feet. Despite his extremely rare appearances, Tancredi was, I remember that guy too, wasn't probably the best of the guys. He at least made no bones about being an asshole. I'm living for this. I'm liking this. Okay. She read it 2 years ago. Overall, this was a fun entry into my spree of 80s trash. Sometimes it got too big for its britches, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I want to read it again so bad. Okay. I want to read this book, The Debutantes. What's that? Oh, it takes you right to it. Okay, hold on. Oh, my Lord, you guys, you have to see. Look at this. Can you see it? You can't see it because of the light, can you? Come to the light, Carol Ann. Okay, look. Okay, hold on. Can you see it? Look at that. The Debutantes. I so want to read this book. Okay. Yeah, is it like out of focus? I'm going to have to find this book, okay? When was this written? 1983. It's 512 pages. It's by Corgi. C-O-R-G-I. Okay. Here are the lives and loves, the tragedies and triumphs behind the glittering facade of the international set, mirrored through 3 incredible decades in the lives of 4 unforgettable women. Oh my God, here is that Lindsay Heller. She commented on it again. I have to read this. This is so hilarious. Okay, this woman is cracking me up. Some time ago, I found this book in a thrift store and being amused with the description, I decided to fork over the 50 cents. Her reviews are fantastic. Oh my God, I have to friend this woman. I'm gonna go friend her right now. I'm living for her. I want her to be my friend. Come on, it's pulling up her friend. You guys wonder what I do all day long? This kind of stuff. Okay. I'm friending her. Oh my God, currently reading The 700 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This woman is fantastic. I'm living for her. Okay. Some time ago, I found this book in a thrift store, and being amused with the description, I decided to fork over the 50 cents. It sat on my shelf for a while before I decided I was in the mood for some 80s trash and gave it a go. This book did not disappoint. It was awful. But it was wonderfully awful. It was like V.C. Andrews attempting to, how does she connect these things? Oh, attempting to write the plot of a Whit Stillman film. There was so much trash crammed into these 500 pages that it almost doesn't seem possible. Ostensibly, the tale of 4 debutantes. In 1946, we follow these girls through the lineage. I see you think, you thinly veiled Gloria Vanderbilt. Boarding school days, Miss Chalmers debut, and then up through 1976 as they make terrible decisions, rash marriages, and basically define the term jet set. They settle in Paris for a year, Switzerland for a while, LA, New York, Boston, all at a whim. They work with Grace Kelly, of course, are good friends with Jackie Bouvier. Naturally, Jackie Kennedy, if you didn't know better. Naturally, they attend her wedding, naturally, and rub elbows with Noel Coward. This is so funny. And behind it all is the sinister personage of Padraig O'Connor, a steaming cauldron of malevolence with a tongue so silver that no one is immune to his villainous whisperings. I mean, this thing had it all. Abandonment, incest, being held captive, abortion, secret babies, my God, brainwashing, nervous breakdowns, excessive Judaism, excessive Catholicism. I can't even say some of these words on here. The lying and cheating was, it almost seemed old hat. She read that in 2016. She writes the best reviews, doesn't she? I am like obsessed with her. Okay. Would you die if I went back to her thing and we were friends all of a sudden? When was the last review? 2,000. Oh, she's got 100 books for a challenge. I'm gonna send her a message. I said, oh my god, I'm obsessed with your reviews. I said I'm a YouTuber. I was talking about Amethyst in a blog and found your reviews from that book, which I read in high school. I now must read The Debutantes. I hope you don't mind, but I read your reviews in my vlog. You are a fantastic writer, and I truly appreciate your wit. Oh my god, I'm gonna die if she responds. This is how I get really excited about stuff, okay? Like, let me just tell you. So, what was the book? Why can I can never remember this. J.T. Leroy. So, J.T. Leroy, if you don't know who that is, was this author that came out with this book called Sarah. I've talked about this on here before. And then J.T. Leroy wrote this book called The Heart is Deceitful Above All Things, Among All Things, or Above All Things. And they made it into a movie with that Asia, I can't remember what her name is, but anyway, whose dad was like a horror movie, the director in Italy. And Courtney Love was in the movie and all this kind of stuff. Well, this J.T. Leroy, that was supposedly like a 17-year-old kid, like boy, became like world famous and used to hang out with like the Smashing Pumpkins and Courtney Love and all these famous writers and musicians, became like super famous within this pop culture underground kind of world. Asia Argento. So anyway, the story was just, I mean, unbelievable. And I followed it every second of the way because I read Sarah and the book just completely changed me as a person. It was about, and I'm just going to describe it the way that it was in a book, and it is what it is. It was about this boy whose mother was a lot lizard prostitute, which means they lived behind a truck stop and like a semi truck stop, and the mom was a prostitute. Well, the boy was a prostitute too, and he would dress like a girl. And there was a lot of issues with gender in it because it wasn't that he was necessarily transgender, but that was how he had to dress to prostitute. And he wore like this squirrel testicle around his neck. It sounds very bizarre, and the book was really bizarre, but the book was so raw and vulnerable that if you read it, you just couldn't not be taken with this book. The book just was unbelievable. And then The Heart is Deceitful was Above All Things or Among All Things or something like that, was similar to that. I think there was 3 books that J.T. Leroy wrote. Well, when it came out, who the author was, it was this whole story, and I've talked about this on here before. It was this whole story because J.T. Leroy was supposedly like a 16 or 17, 15-year-old, it was some young boy that was writing these books and was finding international fame. I mean, international fame. I mean, like these musicians were talking about him left and right. Well, the whole thing was a fraud. And I'll never forget when, I mean, like, I read about it in some magazine and I hadn't even thought about J.T. Leroy in a couple years, you know? And it came out that J.T. Leroy was actually not J.T. Leroy, this 17, 18-year-old boy. It was actually this adult woman who had, like, anyway, the whole story is very bizarre. But they ended up just making, not too long ago, so this is so weird, right? So when I was in Los Angeles, what was that, a year ago, and I did collab with Thomas Halbert. So Alex and I go over to Thomas's apartment, and he was very nice and whatever. He had this woman working for him at the time. I was gonna say girl, but it was a woman. She was like Alex's age. She was like 35. And she was really nice. And very smart too. I don't think she works for him anymore, but we started talking. And she said something about, like, how did you get started on YouTube? And I don't think she really knew what I did, right? And I was like, oh, well, I started on BookTube and what. She's like, well, what's BookTube? And I was like, BookTube's a whole community of people that just talk about books and blah, 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 whatever. She was like, oh my God. She was like, I'm obsessed. I read all the time. She's like, I'm a huge reader. And I said, oh my God, then you have to get on BookTube. And she's like, yeah, but I don't think that anybody over there would probably know any of the books that I've read. And I go, well, like, who do you read? Who do you like to read? And she was like, well, one of my favorite authors is J.T. Leroy. And I was like, get out of here. And she was like, what? And I was like, I was changed profoundly by J.T. Leroy's writing. And she was like, seriously? She's like, have you seen the documentary on Amazon? And I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, oh my God, there's a whole documentary on Amazon. Because we started talking about who J.T. Leroy was, and it was this woman and whatever. And she said, there's a whole documentary that explains the whole thing from beginning to end on Amazon. It's fantastic. So I went and I watched this documentary, and it is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. But I felt really bad for this woman, you know, that, like, when you watch the documentary, I think it would make more sense to you, but there's a lot going on there, you know? And I reached out to her because she's gotten so much criticism since this has all happened. And I sent her a message, and I said, hey, listen, I said, you know, no matter what people say to you, like, I just want you to know that I'm one person who, no matter who you are, your words changed me forever, you know? They made me able to accept myself and love myself, and I'm forever grateful for that. And she didn't respond. For like 2 months. And then all of a sudden one night I like happened to check, and I got a message, and I was like, oh my, it was just this glowing, really nice message. And I was like, okay, this is fantastic. So I love interacting with people like that. I'm like, that's why it's important for me to like respond to messages and stuff like that. You guys, I'm having such a hard time. Like, I went in my Instagram today. I was like, okay, I'm gonna respond to some messages on my Instagram. And I literally had gotten like 20 to 30 messages just today alone. And that's from people that I've never responded to before. Then there's like a whole other section for people I have responded to before. And like the section of where, and these are like, why am I complaining about this? This is fantastic, right? But the section of people that like, I mean, it just goes back weeks and weeks and weeks. And I just feel so bad because I would love to like respond to people, but I just can't sometimes. I can't keep up with it. So we'll have to see if Lindsay here responds to me in just a second. I'm like, what else should I talk about? Now I'm just excited to see if she responds. She probably won't see it for months, you know what I mean? I think that's hilarious, though, that we're both, we have the same goal of 100 this year. What if she, like, watches my videos and she knows who I am? Oh my God, I would die. I would die. Now I'm gonna have to go in and read all her reviews because her reviews are so fantastic. See, I need more bookish fun people in my real life. Lindsay, I wish you lived in Indianapolis. I did figure out something with Tanya, though, with the book situation. Okay, so Tanya goes in and she buys, like, real cheap books. So if a book is on sale, she buys it, right? Well, what I realized, what was happening is, and I don't know, maybe somebody that knows more about Kindle can tell me this, but I think like the brand new books or the books that are bestsellers for the second or whatever, like I think they offer them at a sale rate sometimes, because she is reading like every brand new book that comes out. And then she'll tell it to me. That's what happened with The Silent Patient. And she started doing it the other night with another book. And I said, oh no, ma'am, you're not gonna do that to me again. I've been trying to wait long enough with The Silent Patient that I'll forget, because somebody recommended it to me again the other night and said you should read it. I'm trying to go long enough so that I forget what that book is about, because she ruined it for me. I still kind of remember what it's about. So anyway, this house back here, when I was growing up, I wanted so bad. It had a tennis court. It's not even, well, it doesn't even matter, but you can't even like, the house is really not that big. But it's a cute house and it sits on the corner. Do you see that? But it has a tennis court and a swimming pool, and I wanted it so bad when I was a kid. I was like, why can't we live there? And my mom would always say, because we don't. And you should be happy where you live. Anyway. Talking to my sponsor for a long time today, and we were talking about emotional sobriety. And do you know, it's interesting that I didn't even really understand that term for so long. I mean, I was probably 18 years sober before I really understood what emotional sobriety was. And I think emotional sobriety, I don't think it really has to apply to somebody that's an addict or an alcoholic. Yeah, we just changed topics. Did you get that? We just changed topics. But like, I don't think it has to be about somebody that's an addict or an alcoholic. I mean, I think it makes more sense if it is, but I didn't really understand it. And my old sponsor used to talk so much about it. And my sponsor that I had before I have the sponsor that I have now. And so she and I talk a lot about it because of inventory and evaluation is like always, you know, trying to stay in a good space in your life. And, oh, it's gonna stop. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, I thought, hold on. Okay. So anyway, this car in front of me is like stopping at every intersection. Like there's a stop sign there and there's no stop signs. I'm like, dude, there's no stop sign. You don't have to stop there. But anyway, yeah, this whole idea of emotional sobriety, I didn't really understand, which is, you know, like keeping your emotionality in check. It's like when people say to me, like, do you really need to still go to meetings? I mean, you haven't drank in so long. Why do you need to go to meetings? Blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, yeah, like I do really feel like I need to keep on going to meetings. You know, I need to keep on working with my sponsor because of my emotional sobriety. It has nothing to do with how close am I to the drink or the drug, right? Like, do I think about it? Do I not think about it? This car is all over the road. All over the road. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with how am I doing today? How am I treating the people in my personal life, you know? Like Tanya always says, you know, like, if you really want to know how I'm doing, ask my husband, ask my kid, you know, ask my best friend, because they're the ones that have to interact with me. So, like, if you really want to know how I'm doing, you know what I mean? And there's so much truth to that, isn't there? You know, that it's like, if you really want to know how I'm doing, I can tell you, but like, the people that are affected by me on a daily basis, they're probably the ones that are going to know a little bit more than anybody else. So, you know, I don't know, like, I ask myself that every day, like, how is my well-being? Emotional sobriety is really about, like, how you are inside. Are you taking accountability for your actions? Are you continuing to grow as a person? Are you being authentic and genuine with yourself and others? Are you identifying your emotions, and when they're, you know, off kilter, that you're talking to people about them? Are you using your tools and your skills in your life to continue to grow as a human being and do the right thing? I'm not a big lover of the saying, do the next right thing. You know, my old sponsor used to always say to me, there's no do the next right thing, okay? It's because there's like a recovery saying, do the next right thing. My battery is about to die. It's do the right thing, he would always say to me, right? Now I gotta pull in here and change my battery. Where can I pull in? Here, I'll pull in here. But he would always say, you know, it's not about doing the next right thing, it's about doing the right thing. And we all know what the right thing is to do, you know? I mean, I think in most situations, we know, like we have, you know, our gut tells us what the right thing to do is. And then I think the question is, are we doing that, you know? In any situation, like throughout the day, like giving somebody else a parking space or whatever, you know? Okay, hold on a second. I hope this battery is charged because this is my battery from early. Where is it? Here it is. All right, give me a second. Okay, I guess we'll find out if this battery is good or not. Usually, like, starts flashing right away if it's not. But anyway, but no, like, emotional sobriety is just really about taking care of yourself. And I didn't get that for so long. You know, I didn't understand. I mean, I knew, like, people keep on going to meetings and I mean, I knew that. Like, I never walked away from going to meetings because I didn't think I needed to be there. Like, I always knew I needed to be there, right? I think I walked away out of anger and lack of faith and no spiritual foundation. And I was pissed. That was it. I was pissed. I had no emotional sobriety. I was angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at God for so many things, you know? And I was like, I mean, when you become angry at the one thing you're supposed to have faith in, which I think happens to a lot of people. I've met a lot of people that have felt that way, you know? It's hard to keep on living with faith. It's hard to keep on living with this idea that there's a greater purpose or something has meaning to it. And so, you know, I was like, what's the point? And not of living, I kept on living, but you know, like, I was like, what's the point? Look at that apartment complex, it's so cute. It's called the Ripple. Oh my God, that is adorable. But I was like, what's the point in continuing to do all this work and trying? I'm not feeling any better because I had been so bitter for so long, you know. And then the reality is what happened was I met Alex, and Alex became my wonder drug. Like, he took away any of these feelings that I had about myself, you know, because we were having fun all the time and I was cute at that point. Well, I mean, I like to think I'm still a little cute sometimes, but you know, like, I mean, I was thin, I was in shape, I was working out, like, we were going out all the time, we were dancing, we were having fun. It was like, you know, it was just like, all of a sudden I had this person that made me feel okay in my own skin. And that was not the situation, you know, for the couple years before that. I just had not felt that way, you know, even in my past relationship I hadn't. And so all of a sudden I had this person that, like, you know, I set the moon and the star, like, the moon, it just, like, they looked at me like everything was perfect about me. Well, that's dangerous. That's dangerous to have another person be what makes you feel good about yourself. Because when they don't anymore, then what, right? And I think that that's what happened. You know, like, Alex and I are very individual people that have our own lives. We knew that going into this relationship. Those were huge conversations that we had. You have your life, I have my life, our life meets like this, right? We share a home, we share family, we share friends, but like, we're each gonna have our own things. Like, that was something that was very important to each of us, because our past relationships, both of us, which we were both in long-term relationships before, we were enmeshed with the other person, and it was completely unhealthy. We didn't have our own lives. So that was something that was important for us going forward. Well, you know, then we get married, and I think I always had this idea. He did not. He was always very honest. Like, when we talked about it, he was like, he was more excited, I think, than I was of getting married. I kind of, like, was worried about it, but he didn't have this magical idea that the day that we got married, everything was going to change and it was going to be like this incredible, a whole new world. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't think that. Like, he just thought, okay, well, one day we're married, and then all of a sudden we're committed to each other, and it means more than it did mean before, like, which is what it's supposed to mean, right? I think I have this kind of, like, I don't know. I don't know that it was conscious. I think I had this idea deep down inside that I was going to get married and it was going to make everything right. And I was going to show people, see, like, you know, all those people that beat me up when I was a kid, you know, like emotionally, not physically, but that, you know, said I wasn't good enough and said I wouldn't make it and say, you know, that like you were crap or whatever. I think like I had some kind of like idea deep inside. I don't think I was conscious of it, but I thought that that would be a signal to them that like, I don't know, not to them really, because I didn't see them. It was a signal to myself. Like, see, you do deserve what everybody else deserves. You do deserve to get married. You deserve to have a house and a relationship, and you deserve to have what everybody else has. And I do deserve that, right? But I think I thought that was gonna fix all of this shit inside of me that had built up over the years, this self-hatred, right? Like, you can't have somebody tell you stuff about yourself for so long, never do the work on it, and think you're gonna be okay. Like, when somebody tells you that you're a piece of crap over and over and over and again, okay? Whether it's 12 years of growing up in public school systems, I don't think it would have mattered if I was in private school, telling me that I was crap, because that's what happened every day, to being in relationship. I was in a horribly abusive relationship, not my last one, way before my last two boyfriends. I was in this, at one point, I was in a horribly abusive relationship. And, you know, like, just, I still to this day, I don't talk about this very often in here. You know, like, I was thinking about this the other day when I addressed some of the questions about, like, you know, treatment and things like that, and why I don't talk about those things. I don't really, like, there are certain things I don't love to go back to and relive, and maybe I need to, like, you know, somebody else responded and said, but yes, but when you do those things, that gives us hope, because we've gone through some of those things. You know, like, I've had such weight issues my entire life. I was dating this person. This was pretty soon before I got sober. And I dated for about 6 months. And I knew that they were cheating on me. I knew it for a fact. I mean, I had evidence and everything. But I was just turning a blind eye. And it wasn't once. I mean, it was repeatedly. I mean, I was basically getting used for a place to stay. And I was so just such a mess. I was clinging on to anybody. This person was so emotionally abusive to me. I mean, horrifically emotionally abusive to me. There was more, but I'm not getting into that tonight. The shit this person said to me, like, I still hear it in my head today. And I remember, I don't know why, it's always this one scene. But he and his friend were standing behind me on an escalator. We were in some mall, I don't know where it was, but some department store. And he was they were standing behind me. At the time, okay, like, let's just put this in perspective. I was like 155 or 150. I was thin. I don't remember how, I mean, this is 25 years ago. I don't remember how thin I was, but I was thin, okay? And he was real into shape. He, like, I used to always, like, the guys I dated were always, like, you know, in the gym all the time, working out and whatever. So he said something about, look how bottom heavy he is. Which is so funny today, because, and I mean, you know, I think gay guys now want to have like a perky butt, which thankfully, you know, I was kind of blessed. No, but, you know, but back then, I mean, it was like something that you were kind of made fun of for. And he goes, look how bottom heavy he is. And then his friends started laughing. And they were like, they were saying all this, making all these, like, you know, that song had come out, like, I like big butts and I just can't lie, and whatever. And they were saying all this stuff about me. And I mean to tell you that it didn't just stop at the escalator. You know, a week later it was like, oh my Lord, have you seen his ass? I mean, it was that kind of stuff. Well, I'm glad it was funny for them, because it wasn't funny for me. And as a person that struggled with my weight, I went into like a really sick place with that, like in my head, of like not wanting to eat. And, you know, like if I showed you guys some pictures, I have some pictures that would just absolutely floor you. That if you saw, you would be like, I cannot believe that. You know, I've shown pictures on here, and you guys can see on my Instagram pictures of me when I was a lot thinner, where I was healthy, a lot thinner. I was not healthy. I was emaciated. I mean, people were like, what is going on with you? Like, you look like one of those, do you remember those Calvin Klein and models back in the day that were like emaciated? I looked like that. All because I wanted a guy to like me, you know? No, that's not it. So, you know what happened over time with Alex was that I wanted, you know, just everything to be perfect. And then we got married and it really was pretty perfect. I mean, it really was. But that feeling inside of like everything is exactly how I want it to be was not there, you know, because I think that my expectations were way too high. So then what do I do as a person that comes from chaos and toxicity? I'm real good at this. I don't do this anymore, but I did, because thank God for counseling. I sabotaged the hell out of it, right? And that's what happened. And so it just, you know, it was a mess because I needed more and more and more validation. Well, really what I needed was to love myself. That's what I needed. I needed to love myself. And so I don't even know how I started talking about all this, but you know, that's where emotional sobriety, that's where emotional sobriety comes about. It's about talking about loving ourselves, talking about being enough, loving ourselves enough, you know, not expecting things from other people, just, you know, allowing them to give us what they can give us, knowing that we're enough, I think, and, you know, doing the inventory to rid all of those feelings and negativity and fears and stuff like that. You know, it's like, it's not doing us any good. And we can't be there for somebody else if we're so stuck in our, you know, our heads about all of that kind of stuff. So I don't know. For me, I have to continue to do the work. And I hope that I'll continue to do the work for the rest of my life. There's often days where it's easier not to, you know. It's like why I don't understand why I can't really, you know, wrap my head around this whole working out thing. Because I get it. You know, I understand the idea of being consistent and, you know, building strength over time, losing weight over time, making a lifestyle change. I mean, that's what I did as sobriety. Working out, making lifestyle changes, eating healthier, that's not a whole lot different, you know? And yet I struggle so hard with it. But I get it. I mean, I understand it in concept, you know? I think if I go, I'm just gonna have to like turn around right here. Do you wanna know what so funny is? Oh no, I thought it was, that's an apartment complex. But across the street, I thought that was my aunt and uncle's old condo. But it's not. It's an apartment. Their condo is down here to the right. The overlook condos, I miss them. I've been really struggling with PP being gone the last 24 hours. I think me talking on, was that it? That was it right there. Me talking about it on here lit a fire of just grieving left and right because today has been rough. I mean, I've been in a good mood, but I have thought about him literally all day long today. In my review video, I wore this little sweatshirt that I have on of him. Oh, I was talking about that earlier, but yeah, it's been rough today thinking about the little guy. Alex and I send pictures of to each other throughout the day that we have found of him. And it sounds like that would be real sad, but it's kind of helped us a little bit. Boo and Tucker get so much attention now, it's crazy. I mean, we give them so much attention. They deserve it, though. They deserve it, because they're about perfect. How charged is my phone? 76% charged. My phone charger in my car is pretty good. I mean, to go from 0 to 76% charged in an hour, I think it's pretty good. on a car charger. I mean, like, most chargers are not that great, you know what I mean? You know, I was sitting here, I was thinking about, like, okay, so if I was going to tell somebody, like, how to have, like, a better emotional sobriety in their life, what do you do? Well, I mean, like, first of all, if you're in sobriety, get a sponsor and have a sponsor walk you through the steps and say, I want to work on my emotional sobriety, and they'll tell you what to do. But, you know, like, for me, I think it's like, okay, looking at 2020, and I think we always look at, like, these huge things, like having the best body of my life, which, of course, that's one of my goals, right? Always, you know, or writing a book. That's another one of my goals, right? But it's not like, okay, I'm going to take these 3 issues from the past, like, and let them go. Like, these are 3 issues that I'm going to work on and then let go over the year. And how do you do that? Or these are 3 character defects I want to work on, like maybe lack of patience, what's another character defect? Lack of patience, being passive aggressive, maybe. These are not necessarily, these aren't mine. Okay, but I'll give you one of mine, the being on time, right? You know, I think I've said on here before that I struggle with that, although I've been really good in the last 6 months. So for me, how to work on that is that you do the opposite, right? So, like, if you find yourself being passive aggressive, you do the opposite. You're not passive aggressive with people, right? And, like, you're honest with people, you're forthright with what's going on. And if you're, like, lacking patience, then the opposite of that is, like, if you're standing in line at Speedway and you're like, this is how my sponsors back in the day taught me, and Tanya was the same way. If you're sitting there in a Speedway and you're like, come on, come on, come on. Okay, now what you do is you let people go ahead of you. You open the door for people. You slow down, right? What's the saying? You slow your roll or whatever. You slow down, okay? You're not in any hurry, and then you're practicing patience, because it's, you know, if you have to let 3 people go ahead of you in line, then you're probably going to practice some patience, don't you think? You know, for me, being, like, on time, like, so the character defect would be not being on time. So to work on that would be to be on time, but to be really on time, to be like 20 minutes early, things like that, instead of always being late, you know what I mean? And that's how we work on those things. So, yeah. And that's just one part, you know, of emotional sobriety. You could be like, okay, well, even if you're not a religious or spiritual person, you could say, in the next year, I'm going to find some way to be part more of the universe. Like, what can I do? Like, you know, for me, like, if I'm planting something, because I love to, like, you know, plant, build flowers and all that kind of stuff. If I'm doing that, like, my hands in the ground, my hands in the earth, like, I'm not the world's best gardener. I suck at it, right? But, like, that's part of why I like to buy those succulents, because Alex loves them too. But then I'm also part of the universe. I feel like I'm putting, like, if I'm standing outside and I'm just listening to the wind, like, after I've read a meditation or something, like, I'm part of the universe, I'm part of the world, right? And it makes me feel better about my existence in the world. You know, so you don't have to be a spiritual person, but if you are a spiritual person, or you want to, maybe this is the year that you seek out trying to figure out what you want to believe in, you know, and just read some books. My husband is texting me. And just read some books about, you know, like, different things, like I did, you know, read about, I don't know, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Kabbalism, Judaism. I mean, read Native American wisdom. Just go to the bookstore and look at whatever, you know, jumps out at you. If you want to read more books, and people always say, I don't know what book to start with. Go to Barnes & Noble, walk through the aisles, and just at the front of it, the bestsellers. I mean, if a book is a bestseller, it can't be that bad. That's how I look at it, okay? I mean, it can't be that horrible if it's a bestseller. I mean, somebody out there likes it, right? So go through the bestsellers and pick a book that, like, you know, I mean, I can recommend a book to you. I can tell you what I think a great book is, but I don't know that you're going to like the same things that I like, right? So that's really a hard thing to do, is to give somebody else a book recommendation. I've had so many people recommend books to me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so excited to read this book. And then I get a hum, and I'm like, oh, I can't read this book. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's really, what you like to read is a personal thing. It's like with watching TV shows. I'm going to start watching that Schitt's Creek. I didn't realize that everybody in that basically was in all those Christopher Guest movies, like Best in Show. I like the, what's his name? Levy. What's his name? His son is in it too, and that Catherine, whatever her name is from the Home Alone movies, but they were all in those Christopher Guest movies. You know Christopher Guest that was married to, or maybe still is, Jamie Lee Curtis, but he did like Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman. Oh shoot, what are the other ones? God, they're fantastic. Parker Posey was in all of them. They're hilarious. I love those movies so much. Did you ever see the movie The House of Yes with Tori Spelling? She deserved an Oscar for that movie. When Parker Posey dresses like Jacqueline Kennedy, and she's like brushing her hair, and she says to her, she like walks in on the conversation, and Tori Spelling said that she never went to the 7th grade trip to Washington, D.C. And Parker Posey, and she's like so out of it, and she says, I just for a moment felt like I was really having a conversation with one of my good Judies. But anyway, she says, she's like, I can't find my brush. And her brother's like, what? And like Tori Spelling's her brother's girlfriend. She's like, I can't find a brush. And Tori Spelling says, oh, well, I have a comb. And she goes, a comb? And she goes, no, I need a brush to brush my hair with. My friends and I used to say that line to each other all the time. My one friend of mine lives in Florida now. Anyway, how do I get around this roundabout? So, but then she says, she goes, something about being a cheerleader in high school or something, and then she says, oh, no, that's Junebug. And she goes, Amy Adams says to her, she goes, you were a cheerleader? And she goes, yeah, I was a cheerleader. She goes, you were not. I love that movie so much. Junebug is such a fantastic movie. Tragically sad, though. But anyway, but that movie, House of Yes, is so fantastic, but so weird. And Parker Posey's like, you never went to the 7th grade trip. You never went to the 7th grade trip to Washington, D.C., which I didn't either, so I totally related to that joke in the movie. Anyway, there's so many great movies out there. Crimes of the Heart, one of my all-time faves. With Jessica Lange, Diane Keaton, and Sissy Spacek. Oh, such a great movie. When Jessica Lange is standing outside smoking a cigarette after she just took a shower and she puts her fingers through those wind chimes, that right there is an Oscar-winning moment. It is such a fantastic movie. It was a Marsha Norman play, I think, first. What am I rambling on and on about? This is what my conversations with Tanya Jean are like when we're in a car. We just go off of each other constantly. All right, you guys, listen, I'm going to get off here now because I'm coming up to her house here soon. So I'm going to get off here. And I hope you guys are having an amazing Tuesday, unless you have other plans. But like I always say, don't have other plans. Don't. Make the most of your day. Enjoy it. Do something really, I'm like looking along here. I haven't been along here for a while. It's like all these places that I used to come to are closed. Make the most of your day. Do something fun today. Do something that when you look back on it 5 years from now, you will be so happy and so proud of yourself. And oh my God, that used to be Scotty's Pub and it's closed down. I didn't even know that. And if nobody else has told you this today, I love you. Make sure that you look at yourself in the mirror every single day and you do your daily affirmations and you say, I love you, you are valuable, you are important, you matter, you are worthy. Today is going to be a great day. You're gonna feel good all day and get a lot accomplished. And 2020 is your year. Don't forget that. And I love you. I love you. Most importantly, make sure that you pass it on to somebody else and let them know how important they are to you. Do you guys do that every day? I'm gonna do it to my good Judy, Tanya, when she gets in the car. I'm gonna go, I love you. And she'll say, I love you too. And that's how it should be between friends, right? We shouldn't be afraid of those words. And oh my God, Joella's Chicken. They have that vegan chicken there that is so good. And they also have pecan pie in a jar. So you should go check out Joella's. There's the end of my positive affirmations for the day. Joella's Chicken. Love it. If you live in Indiana or Kentucky, because I think that's the only places they have it. And do some random acts of kindness today. Don't forget that. That's important too. I love you guys. And I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for watching my video. I love you. Bye. Love ya.